Okay, we're going to do our third lecture on Orwell's 1984, and I've argued throughout here that one of the fantastic ways of understanding the whole of 1984 is to see it from the perspective of looking at it as a project of the Enlightenment and of utilitarian concerns modeled by Jeremy Bentham's Panopticon. And I've made reference to the Presidio Moderno, the prison in Cuba, which, as you can see from the screen behind me, allowed people to surveil prisoners in their cells all the time without them having any way of preventing themselves from being surveilled. And what it comes to symbolize is the total power of technocracy over mankind. And the context for this is similar in this course as in other courses that I teach. Sorry, let me stop here. And the science fiction subcreation course that I am teaching here simultaneously. If I can stop this. Let's just leave that image there. And Lewis writes a work called The Abolition of Man at the same time, and talks about the project of modern education and the way it sees human beings as something other than what historically they would have been seen as, namely as individuals having dignity and worth. And there's a project that arises in this period that tries to, again, maximize the greatest possible good for the greatest number of people. Not conceiving it from the negative point of view as a prison, but rather let's gain power over the masses such that we can do what's best for them and try to control that outcome. C.S. Lewis calls these people the conditioners that control the education system in this way, and he says that it is wholly at odds with everything that we would have associated with education historically. I'm not here to talk about the abolition of man. I'm here to talk about Orwell's 1984. But what Orwell is illustrating is I think, a futuristic and believable dystopian portrait of what Lewis describes in The Abolition of Man when it goes to its ultimate outcome. Now, that the next novel we are going to look at, Brave New World, will do the same thing, but it will present it from a different point of view, from the point of view of are we better off giving a stick or a carrot? Here it's the stick. In Brave New World, it'll be the carrot. We're going to make people be entirely controlled from prior to their birth till the time of their death and be very happy with it. Here the control is not satisfied with the people being happy with it. The control is conceived much more, what's the phrase used in Heart of Darkness? Efficiently. It's not enough that they do the right things. They have to think the right things. We have to totally control the person so that even their will and their own sense of independence as a person has to go. There can be no limit to how far we will go to control people. And I think Orwell, in one sense, is more prophetic in the sense that he does seem to anticipate what we start to see in the period, which is a total commitment to education, which we don't really see in the same way in Brave New World. And that is because I think both of them are rooted in atheism. And for atheism to really hold true, it has to be marked by absolute belief on behalf of the party. Everyone in the party has to believe and think the right things, and only those things. They cannot allow a universe in which there's a reality outside the party's control. And that means people within the party can't think things that the party won't acknowledge as realities. And the way we've seen that happen already is for them to rewrite history and rewrite language, create new terms that will describe reality, but not a reality that they share, but rather which the party dictates to them. And what they are effectively doing is erasing themselves from history. Joseph Stalin, there's a verb, which is not really a verb, at least it wasn't initially, at least not a transitive verb, to disappear. But you could disappear someone. You could make them disappear. And so there are pictures of Stalin around this time in which he was portrayed with a variety of comrades dedicated to the same cause, but they eventually fell out with him, and they're in the photograph. Well, what happens to them in the photographs then there, which are records of what happened at the time? Well, they just remove them from the photos. Just take their photos off the wall, or even remove them from the photos altogether. It's easy to imagine in a digital world. And with the chat GBT stuff, well, you can create an alternate reality that sounds entirely plausible, in keeping, like, people can put up speeches that never existed from someone, and other people might believe that that's what they said. Particularly if you can make their own statements disappear. So it's total control. Directed in the case of ChatGPT by artificial intelligence. And what's alarming to me on that front, not just the power of it, but it seems to be very politically motivated, heavily slanted towards what would be called the left, but I'm not convinced it is the left. I think it's more of a globalist technocracy whose power is held by a very small group of individuals. But the party members, and let's go to 1984 here, need to view death not just as an end of their bodily life, but as a erasure of their entire being. It's as if the party snaps his fingers and says that it don't exist, they're not just going to be able to kill me, they're going to make me no longer exist at all. So existence is at stake in Orwell's account. And I think that this explains what we saw already hinted at in Tolstoy's Death of Ivan Ilyich, where everyone's terrified of death. It takes it a step further. It's not just they're afraid of death. Everyone has always been afraid of death. The Bible speaks about the fear of death. Christ repeatedly comes to people and says, do not be afraid, because people are afraid of what comes after death. But the party's suggestion, because they're all atheists, is that if we don't acknowledge your existence, you don't exist at all. It's total power over their life. We can make you not appear at all. So it's a godlike power, a total power, even not only over your future, but your present and your past. So you can make your past disappear. You've never existed at all. And Winston Smith muses that the terrible thing is that the party seems to be able to do this. So that somebody who was there will no longer exist, and neither will the actions that they committed. You're lifted right out of the stream of history. History no longer has any meaning. Now, this is a challenge for Christianity like no other religion, because unlike Eastern religions, history has a meaning and a purpose and a significance in biblical thought. It's important that creation happens at a particular time. I don't need to get into when it happens and all that, but that it happens at a time, and that Jesus enters human history at a particular time, and that there's an account of human history that seems to be important in the rendering of Scripture. That people online will say that when I'm talking about the Bible and literature and speaking of Jesus as an actor in or a protagonist in a story, are saying that Jesus is a fictional character. Well, from the perspective of a story, you can look at him that way. But from the biblical account, it's quite clear that it's not just a character in a story, but somebody who actually did live historically. and did say what he said and did do what he did, and what happened to him was a historical reality. That's very important. There's no denying the importance placed on history within the context of Scripture and embodied existence. The fact that Jesus was born as a man and lived a human life and died a human death and then rose again bodily, and that human history thereafter is going to be lived in the light of his life, death, and resurrection and ascension, is bedrock Christianity. History matters. So the party seems to recognize exactly that in order to deny God, we have to control not just human lives and human deaths, but human history. And that means we also have to control human language, what people said and what they did. So it goes all the way down. And so this is in keeping with the idea is not just that everyone has to be an atheist, but that the party members have to have a certain view of not just life, but death. They have to regard death as an absolute defeat. Unless we agree with the party, which alone is immortal, we will no longer exist. So they have to regard the party as the only form of life eternal. So in section 3, which we're going to look at today, O'Brien instructs Winston is the very meaning of the phrase freedom is slavery. As an individual, the human being is always defeated, but the party will live forever, and you will live in the party, like the Borg. You'll be assimilated. The Borg will continue on after you, and as an individual will no longer exist. And thereby, your idea of freedom, individual freedom, is actually slavery. It will just lead to death. But here, total submission to the party's rule will give you life. Yes, question?
So they're playing God without the aspect of free will. You exist if they want you to, when they want you to, how they want you to.
Yes. Yes, they live without free will, the individuals of the party, and not only that, the belief that they have free will, they must deny. Because only then will they live in the party, and the party is the only thing that lives eternally.
So they don't need to think you have free will. They don't even fake it to you.
The party is quite committed to erasing the idea that you should be able to think that you have free will. So if the party says that 2 + 2 = 5, you will say, yes, it is. That's right. And then tomorrow, if it goes around and says 2 + 2 = 4, you will say, yes. And what's the difference between the two statements? Nothing. In the two statements that one says it's 4 and the other is 5, there's an obvious. One's right, one's wrong. No, the whole notion of right and wrong is the wrong category. There is no objective reality outside the party. The party is everything. If the party says it's this, that's what it is. It's not just that you have to think it, that's what it is. So it denies all realities outside of what the party says reality is. And what the party says reality is, it keeps changing. To why? Why does it keep changing the reality? Let me give it an illustration that's not in the novel, but is somewhat related. Pronouns. Like when he, she, it, and that now there's, say them rather than he or she to avoid the specificity of he or she. Let's say them. Let me call myself, although I'm a singular entity, let me call myself by a plural pronoun. What do I do thereby? Well, I avoid specificity of a male-female designation. So I guess I avoid offending somebody who isn't one of those two. But then you create another problem, of course, is that now I'm calling myself by a plural identity, which seems rather odd since I'm a singular person. Okay, that's what happened in the 1980s. That was the beginning of politically correct language. Now, people call themselves their own pronouns, and the number of pronouns seems to proliferate endlessly. What's the purpose of that? And it's to affirm the individuals who are identifying themselves this way. Is it really? What if I identify myself by this day, and this the next day, and then something again the third day? Is it really identifying myself, or is it erasing the idea that there is a reality of a person which everybody can recognize, including the person who self-identifies? Or is it totally dependent on, again, you have to say what we say you say? Because it seems to me that that's the case. And so it is moving in the direction of Brave New World. It's just an illustration. It wouldn't have occurred to Orwell. But it seems to me, at least, to have the same sort of trajectory. And it is the positive of an atheistic public square that insists that there is no creator, that we guide and direct our own lives. And the demonstration for that is you get to choose whatever you want to choose, except that the choices that you make have no reality outside of your declaration of them, and that can change today or tomorrow. In fact, the official government sources will insist that everyone has to acknowledge that. Don't dead name them. What is it dead? I mean, talk about thought speak or double speak. To dead name somebody. You know what I mean by that? You probably do. It's news to me, but to call somebody a name, but they used to be called, but now no longer identify by that name. Why is that such a transgressive act? Well, because you're not acknowledging who they are now. No, that's not the reason. It's because you're acknowledging a reality outside of the language which the party controls. That's why. So the only, back to the novel, although you may think I'm still commenting about what our government's doing, the only path of salvation is total submission to the party. Only if an individual can escape from his or her or their or whatever individual identity can she be liberated, so that he is the party, or she is the party, or they are the party. We're all one. That's the point of the language games, the constant shifting, is to emphasize that individual identity is a non-entity. It doesn't exist. We are creatures of the state, and the state, or the party rather, and if we do that, we gain a great deal of power, because suddenly we have eternal life, because the party controls everything, including individual lives within it. Comments or questions? Does that not seem to you accurate? The party insists that there is no history, and that words which used to mean things are now unwords. They no longer exist even. This is what this word means. This is what happened historically, even if it didn't happen. They even make fictional characters and act as, like Goldstein, act as if they existed. You wanted to follow up?
Yeah, they can control what you do. That's pretty simple. But the concept of double think, how they kind of, you have to think what they
Want you to think.
You have to believe this, but also believe that you actually believe it, and not that they're making you believe it.
We're not making you believe it. You do believe it, right? Right?
How could you possibly go about doing that without drugging someone? Because even if someone offered me $5 billion, I can't believe that there's an elephant in this room right now. Even if someone had a gun to my head and said, I can tell, they can look into my brain and see if I actually believe.
But if you thought that, okay, but you believe that there's a God. What if you believe there is no God? The party is committed to atheism, and they're very consistent in their in pushing out the epistemological consequences of atheism, which is to say there is no existence outside of our control. Because if we acknowledge an existence or a reality outside of our control, that very reality suggests a creator or a good that might be outside the party's control. The party can't have that. So what this says is that a party that works this way must persecute believers of God. It must, because otherwise it will acknowledge that it's not all powerful. And if it's not all powerful, why would anybody go along with this? Because it's clearly putting its own party members in a sort of a surveillance prison like the Presidio here. Why would anyone submit to that? Because they're willingly going along with this. Yes?
So it's less changing the minds of the people that do believe this way and more killing them off and then raising the children, people more in the stage where they are.
This is the party. Remember that what the 1984 describes is what's going on within the minds and lives of the members of the party, not the people outside of it. The proles, they can do and think whatever they want. It doesn't seem to matter. They're but the party members must think the right things and do the right things and acknowledge no other reality, even while the proles are all around them. The further question might come, if the proles live a life, and let's say they do believe in God, and the party doesn't believe in God because they don't, I mean, that's the case I've been making, what will the members of the party eventually do to all those people who believe in a reality other than their own? Will they leave them alone? And I don't think so. I think it's a death and suicide cult. I think they will eventually turn on the proles and exterminate them all. But we're not there at this stage, and that's not the depiction of Orwell's novel. He doesn't really get to that question. It's just he's really just talking about the mindset of those within the party. It's committed to atheism, and atheism is committed to a sort of non-reality. We can't acknowledge that there is a reality that the party doesn't determine. And the party determines it because the party is immortal, and therefore it's like a god, and of course gods determine everything. And so total obedience is required. You have to think what we say you think. And not just think it, believe it. No other thought can enter your mind. If it does, we'll have to kill you to get rid of it. Yes?
To answer that, there's a depiction between the knowledge that Winston has and the knowledge that Julia has, and the difference in their ages and what they've been exposed to. So
Yes.
memories are, a little bit more vivid, and Julia doesn't have this.
No, she grew up under this, right? Whereas he had the misfortune or the fortune of living before the party came into existence and could say, well, actually, it wasn't always this way. It's in his memory. And that's why he's troubled by it. Except he's so indoctrinated by what's going on inside the party that he's not even sure about the things that he thinks he remembers. So he's not even certain. He just wants it to be otherwise because it's so awful. Whereas she grows up under Big Brother's tutelage, and she's more immature or more indoctrinated. It's not clear why she does what she does, actually. It is sort of clear why Winston does. Why she does it.
There's kind of a passive ignorance there.
There is. Yeah. She's more ignorant. Or she's even more immature, if you will. Maybe she's just a rebel. But she's not rebelling on behalf of anything she knows. He's rebelling because he knows that something once existed that the party is now denying. She doesn't even know that. She's never experienced it. She just knows how to play the system. So she's really good at acting like a fervent party member and then going around and acting a double life. And the reason she can pull it off is because she doesn't have to fake it, in a sense. She's creating that reality for herself. But the party gets to decide what is real for the party. They insist on it. Sanity, Winston comes to believe, is actually statistical, which is very interesting phraseology when you consider Jeremy Bentham's idea of a calculus of pain and pleasure. I didn't mention this. He has a calculus of pain and pleasure that will determine what the greatest possible good is for the greatest number of people. We'll be able to make a formula out of it. Modern social sciences is predicated on this. Sanity means not seeing what is actually there, but seeing what everybody else sees. Yet the sane person will agree with what everybody else says. Anybody who doesn't agree is going to be called insane. Whatever the whole party holds to be truth is truth. It's impossible to see any reality outside of what the party says is truth. That's what their aim is. And because of this, they do gain absolute power over their own party members. So the denial of not just, remember back in Tolstoy, they denied that death was going to come to them. They lived their life in a wholly materialist way. And let me just think happy thoughts. I'll deny that I'm ever going to get sick or die. I don't want to banish that thought. I don't want to have that thought. This is a much more intensified version of that. It's that my entire life is dependent on the people in charge telling me what reality is, and thereby controlling my life, but thereby also controlling my death, because I will live on as the party lives on, because I am the party. I am the party. Now, with AI and all of that, it just, again, takes it up a few notches. But this is why 1984 is so powerful, because it does start to replace human thought with the party's thought. And wherein is there a truth and falsehood? Well, 2 + 2 = 5 contradicts the law of non-contradiction, which is one of the 3 basic laws of logic. And if that's the case, and I agree that 2 + 2 = 5, or that it's white math or whatever, it means that anything can go. And contradiction doesn't matter, because logic isn't hold anymore. It's just what the party says is right. Yes?
Are there not many similarities between the party and Christianity?
Margaret Atwood thinks so.
I mean, the party has much darker tones to it, but...
Not according to Margaret Atwood. She thinks Christianity is as dark as the party.
Fair enough. But a lot of those ideas kind of are true in Christianity of, like, not necessarily, it's not as extreme with removal of the individual, but for the greater whole of the body.
Yes.
Many of those ideas come true. God determines what's right and what's we believe.
Yes.
We're always watched by God.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, so it is a sort of a copycat, what we're seeing here, right? Is that the party takes on the role of God, is omniscient. It projects on omnipotence, even if it isn't, because we can see that the proles, it just leaves them alone. It doesn't bother with total control of them. I think that if you looked outside this, ultimately it would have to destroy the proles. Maybe it's just not there yet, and he doesn't consider it. But it seems like a consequence necessary to its commitment here. But yeah, it is a bit like a religious system. The difference is, of course, that the Creator in Christianity creates beings in His image, and He creates them individually. And that individual has certain features, which we've seen back in Milton's Paradise Lost, which bear the mark of bearing the image of God. And one of them is that there is a freedom there and an individuality, and the choices of the individual do matter. Even if God knows the choices, they're still real choices. And that's what Milton said in Paradise Lost. I created them free until they enthralled themselves. They are sufficient to have stood, though free to fall. And furthermore, in Christian doctrine, God becomes a man and redeems humanity as a whole by the work of one man. And Christ dies for not the whole human race, but for individuals within the human race. Not everybody will follow Christ, and nor are they compelled to do so, right? Because it's a matter of conversion and repentance and faith. You don't need to have, there's no repentance and faith in the party here. You will conform, and there's no alternative conceived. In fact, to conceive of an alternative is to suggest that the party's not all powerful. So it is a sort of a theology, I agree, but it's the theology of atheism, which, interestingly, Orwell sees very closely allied with communism, and that's because it is. Again, they deny the importance of the individual. It's about the group. Yes, again.
The party likes to have the authority of God and likes to be almost worshipped as God, but it doesn't it doesn't value justice the way God does, freedom the way God does.
No, it values them in the opposite way with its slogans, right? So that the ministry of love is the ministry of punishment. It just calls it love. Well, think of how Christian love is presented. Christian love is in God laying down his life for his enemies. That's the demonstration or the definition of love. This is love, not that we love God, but that he loved us and he gave his son as a propitiation for our sins. That's 1 John 1, 7 and 8, something like that. There's the definition of love. It's a self-giving act of atonement for others' sins. Here, love is, we will punish you until you agree with, we will punish you, not ourselves, we will punish you if you have any thoughts that contradict what we say the reality is. It is a direct antithesis to Christianity in every sense. As I say, concurrent with this, with Orwell's depiction of a dystopian future, which is entirely bleak, but seems very realistic, prophetic even, some say, are the novelists C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien, who present a very different and wildly much more popular version of this, which, interestingly, the public schools have no interest in. I find that extraordinary. I really do. How is it the most popular books of the 20th century, which people aren't compelled to read? This is one you read in schools as a, it's part of the curriculum. Why are they read and not The Lord of the Rings, for instance? It's a good question. I mean, I think Orwell should be on the curriculum in public schools. Because it's a great novel, as somebody said to me beforehand. It made me really angry because it brings you so that you can see what is being said, but Orwell made me feel anger, disgust, revulsion, whatever. Yes, that's why he's a good novelist. It's that ability to make you feel the way he wants you to feel in response to this. Therein lies the genius of the novelist. Other comments or questions, or I'll get back into the book then, and closer to chapter 3. But chapter 3 is, or chapter 3, part 3, is horrifying because now we are in prison. That's how it ends up. And in a sense, I think part of us, and this is again part of the genius of Orwell, I think he made us hope that there might be a different reality than this, while at the same time knowing that there was no way that it would not end up this way. So there's a little bit, let me give you a little bit of hope and a little sense that there's a freedom, and Winston's got it with Julia, and there's a little bit of color in this bleak world, and whoop, I'm going to take that away, and you didn't really believe it was ever possible that alternate reality could ever come about, did you? And so you get really angry. because I think the reason it has power, the story, is because it's the story of the underdog and the man raging against the machine, and he's the hero, and he may not be very admirable. In fact, he's not particularly admirable, not even particularly likable, a little bit sordid. Doesn't matter. There was just a spark of freedom in him and a little bit of a love of something that we could recognize as humanity in him. But the party would not allow that to exist. And he was a symbol of that, so he has to be crushed. And it's a symbol as much as anything. Imagine a boot stepping on a human face forever. That's the image of the party. And the face that it's stepping on is Winston's face. So if you were on the side of Winston and Julia, which everybody is who